Hi friend, my name is Hunter from Interactive, and in today's video we're going to take a look at a lighting breakdown for this scene here. Now I got a bit of inspiration from Ross Mason's scene. He did like a lip balm that looks similar to this, and I thought I could set it up in a new scene and light it all. So in this lesson we'll go through a breakdown of what I've done here. If you're new or an intermediate user of Blender, chances are you don't know all the shortcuts and you're going into menus constantly to use the tools that you want to use. So I've put together a Hotkey PDF so you can pick and choose the shortcuts you use day to day and implement them to help speed up your workflow inside of Blender. You can download this PDF down below for free at the link in the description. Let's move on to the video. So the first thing, let's turn off all our lighting. First thing I added was a HDRI, and in here we've got it set to a super low strength. So you can add one just by coming into the color here, clicking on environment and adding in an image. It'll be a .exr file, and you can grab these from like Polyhaven for free, and they've got a heap that you can plug in here. So then I drop the strength down, so this would usually look like this with a strength of 1. It's really flat lighting, it's not really that appealing, but it has some color in it that we could take. So I just dropped that down to 0.04, and there we have some very subtle lighting. So next, if I check all this, we'll hide it all. So started building it up from there, and I usually focus on the product to begin with. So in here, so the first thing I looked at was a key light, and a key light's just your main light in your scene. So this was, in this case, sort of like a spotlight sitting back here, just shooting straight into the label here, and I've just made it a bit diagonal and stretched it up a bit so it's nice and tall, so that we get some reflections up on here, and we also get a good coverage of the label down here. And so if I go to that, the power's set really low, but that's because we've got a really low spread. So this is usually 180 by default on the area light, but in this case I dropped it down to something like 4 or 5, and so it made the light really direct, and it pointed here, and the fall off was really low if you understand inverse square law. And so then the power can be set really low at 4. Next I continued on, so I was looking more at like the rim light here. So I wanted something that would fill the scene a bit and also create a bit of a rim light onto our product here. So you can see here I've got a background, and then behind that I had just added in a plane with an emission in here, and you can just click use nodes for this one, and you can see here emission of 10, and that means this emits light in the background. And so if you scale this up really wide, you can see you can start to pull in up in our scene here. You can start to pull in the edges in from the product here. In this case I wanted the rim light to be on the edge, sitting close to the edge there, and it also helped to light up some of these branches. So if you're happy with this, you could hit the render here and it'd be a pretty good product render. However, I kept going on, so in this case I had a background light, and so this light is just sitting down here and it's just pointing at the background, and it's really low spread here, and that means that it's got a really high fall off. If I move this up and down a bit, you can see that it just falls off really quickly. So the lower that you have that, if I have that at 10, you see the fall off is really low, but at 20 I can have a nice gradient fall off to the dark up the top here. So the next one here is I started playing around with some of these logs here, And so I've got some branches in here, and I also added this one here. If I turn off that one, and it's got a little bit of color in it, which helps the scene a little bit more because it's so it's like flat coloring and it doesn't have much variance. But in this case I went with just the branch here and kept that off because of the model I found wasn't realistic enough. You could paint in some moss on top of here if you wanted to. So then I added in a gobo, which gobos are just like textured lighting, and it's just basically a spotlight with an image plugged into the color of the emission, and it's got to be set really low, so I set a radius of 0.04, so it's just got a little bit of feathering on the light. It just adds a little bit of extra to our scene. And so then I added that to the background too, so that it was consistent across this. So this branch at the back had a little bit of patch lights, which were nice and blurred. Then to fill the scene a little bit, I added a fill just to fill up this area here on the branch and fill up the scene a little bit more, which is just a light up the top here. And we've just got it set to like 100 with a high spread, so that's really nice soft lighting. So another thing I did in this scene in particular was I grabbed the camera and I made the focused area the label, and I also dropped the f-stop really low, which means it's got like a drop off or a fall off, and so by the time it gets to here it's nice and blurred. Just adds that little bit of extra. So if I save this and we render it, you'll see what sort of results we're getting out of this. Won't take that long. So it's a pretty good render, it's pretty nice. The process is all about tweaking these lights. So you could come in and change something. You could make a rim light just down one side. You could also try and get a catch light into the base of this product here. And overall, I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. And so if you're happy, you can go save image into your files here. Anyway, that's a breakdown of the project. If you have any questions, drop them down below and I'll try and answer them. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to stick around because I'll be uploading more like this one. Alright, I'll see you next time.